Hello, and welcome to this Bitwise webinar on migrating from SharePoint 2010 and other older versions to Office 365. My name is Nathan Nichols, Communications Manager here at Bitwise. Joining me today is our very own Anis Kazi and Nikhil Deshmukh. As a SharePoint specialist at Bitwise, Anis plays a key role in helping clients deliver value with their SharePoint and Office 365 implementations, including his leadership in a wide range of migration initiatives. As VP of US Delivery, Nikhil focuses on developing and maintaining customer relationships and creating solutions that enhance the overall customer experience while helping customers achieve competitive advantage. Before I pass things over to Nikhil, who will get us started, let me first provide a quick introduction to Bitwise. Bitwise, a technology consulting and services company, uses over 23 years of enterprise data and digital experience to help bridge gaps between traditional tools and cutting-edge technologies, including big data and cloud. What truly sets Bitwise apart is our technology leadership in creating unique accelerators that reduce the time, complexity, and cost of large-scale initiatives such as SharePoint upgrades and cloud migrations. If you have any questions during our session, feel free to send those via the question feature or contact us at any time at sales@bitwiseglobal.com. And with that, I'd like to pass things over to Nikhil. Nikhil?
Thanks, Nathan. Before we get into the discussion around migration, just want to take a few minutes to introduce the team again. My name is Nikhil Deshmukh, and I head the US project delivery for Bitwise. Today, joining me in the webinar is our SharePoint architect, Anis Kazi, as a panelist to help present our experiences and our Bitwise approach to migrating to cloud or next on-prem version. At Bitwise, I'm going to take a few minutes here to just give a quick background of Bitwise. I know most of the participants would be interested to understand how and get all the answers around it, that what is Bitwise's approach to the migration, but still I'm taking a few minutes to quick background. We have been part of content migration projects like moving content from Lotus Notes to SharePoint, moving content from other content management tools to SharePoint, SharePoint application development, and SharePoint migrations to the next version or directly to cloud for over a decade. And we have seen all that can go well or bad during this migration. So wanted to take this opportunity to share our experiences that have made us sit back and think if there is a more effective way to handle such roadblocks. And like always, and eventually for most of the cases, we have found an effective ways in which we have invested our time to create number of automations, accelerators, and utilities that make migration more organized and time-boxed. Some of the automations are part of the analysis phase and do help organizations to understand the scope of work. And what our experience has during this many migration projects that we've underwent with different customers is evaluating and understanding the scope of work may be a daunting task, but it is very crucial to have a successful migration project underway. We understand that there are a number of tasks one has to consider before going down the journey when we are migrating to a next version of SharePoint. It is beneficial to understand the effort or to understand content one has on-premise or wherever it is. Our approach helps organizations to take an inventory in an automated way and helps to answer crucial questions like how many sites collection do you have, how many sites, where are they, what is the size of the data, how many custom or out-of-box workflows do you have running on at an average, etc. Anis will definitely go through the details of our approach, But on high level, the strategy we adopt when we help to migrate is to help customers evaluate the content, help customers establish what is the priority content, help guide customers to make decisions on what content needs to be migrated and what content needs to be archived or deleted, and finally, automation around migration to make it as much as possible within timelines and cost. So that would be the high-level agenda of today's webinar. So moving on to the next slide. So primarily, the most common question that we get is, why migrate? What are the advantages of migration? So as I mentioned before, our experienced SharePoint team has worked on a number of SharePoint development and migration projects across different geographical regions, and thus have seen quite a few peculiar scenarios. We are hoping today that the discussion will help you all to understand there are always hope for a smooth migration project. Migration is always going to range from a simple to complex, depending on the size, and of course, depending on what you're doing. Office 365, so going to cloud, or you're just changing versions of SharePoint and moving and looking to take advantage of these features, new features, but a well-organized and thought-through approach will prevent last-minute surprises. And we have experienced this during the various projects that we have executed for multiple customers. Again, there are a number of reasons why organizations want to move to cloud or stay on-premise. That is always difficult to kind of move to cloud, and there are roadblocks. But there are also advantages to moving to cloud because of Microsoft's approach of cloud first. So whatever they develop as a new features is deployed on cloud first, and then it is moved to the on-prem versions. So there's always new capabilities users look forward to that is released by Microsoft. And Bitwise being a gold partner, we do have a first-hand insight on their roadmap, which we understand is more driven towards primarily three things. One is optimizing user experience through SharePoint Online, content engagements across all browsers and devices, and finally, powerful scaling, security, and compliance capabilities. So just to summarize, if you decide to go to cloud or SharePoint 2019, you will have a similar kind of experience because Microsoft is making sure that they have similar features on both the environments. All the good qualities of SharePoint Online are now available on-premise users too, like modern sites, communication sites, hub sites, and most importantly, the new rock-solid sync features for OneDrive. So that's a quick overview of why people would like to migrate. So two main reasons: because the support is ending, and the next is because of the new features. I'm going to invite Anis Kazi, our architect, to go through the Bitwise approach on the migration process.
Okay, thank you. Hey, thanks, Nikhil. So we'll look at migration from an organizational perspective as well as a technical perspective. Usually we think of migrations as something that need to be done technically, but there's a whole lot of things from an organizational perspective that we need to do before we can even jump into the technical part. First, we will go through the migration from an organizational perspective. First and foremost, we need to empower the executive sponsor to be a consistently visible part of your migration program. This helps in sustained use of the new platform and overall transformation. Bitwise sets up various channels so that executive sponsor constantly communicates broadly about the plan. We usually set up Microsoft Teams live events to broadcast to employees. We encourage executive sponsors to use the technology themselves. These channels can be used on top of the traditional communications like emails, articles, etc. Stakeholders are people who have an interest in and influence over your project, regardless of rank. Identifying stakeholders can often be challenging. Traditionally, it involves reviewing the effect of migration on different kinds of businesses and how it cascades through the organizational structure. Bitwise helps by implementing a bottom-up approach. We study the effect of change from individual level and how it moves up the chain. Our automated scripts help in identifying the top content creators, content consumers, top site visitors, site owners, and such. This approach helps in identifying stakeholders quickly and efficiently. Every stakeholder wants to know what is in it for me. When you start discussing changes the way they work, too often people make the mistake to start talking about product features and organizational benefits instead of empathizing with users' day-to-day struggles to collaborate, communicate, and get work done. This can easily be changed by shifting the center of gravity of the change program to the stakeholders' experience. We usually meet directly with the stakeholders on a regular basis and learn additional information about their business. We listen to their pain points and perceptions so that we can craft communications that will be successful and manage their expectations of what the migration can deliver and how it can change or improve their day-to-day activities. For timeline and budget, instead of going the big bang approach, Bitwise breaks down the migration project into manageable and logical pieces that can be boxed into time frames. Instead of migrating all the forms or site corrections at the same time, the migration project could be broken down into different phases, and each phase targets migration of a subset. Using this approach, companies see the success earlier. A plan for managing whether or not the migration has been successful needs to be created. Traditional success criteria of executing a project within given timelines and budget isn't really a good measure of success. Success criteria should always include measures that include the health of service for full picture. People may be happy with the intent, but if they cannot get to the experience, they will ultimately have negative sentiments. Bitwise works with stakeholders to come up with success criteria that include key parameters like quality, reliability, performance, and speed with which the issues are resolved. Champions are an invaluable resource to drive change and ensure you have meaningful feedback from your employees. Champions are an extension of your implementation team. They provide peer-to-peer learning, feedback, and enthusiasm to the migration project. Bitwise helps in building platform for champions to share updates and success. We provide materials ready to support their work. Bitwise helps build and nurture champion communities so that they can provide departmental and one-on-one support of employees during the transition. Bitwise enables champions to drive message and communicate the value and benefit throughout the rollout. A common mistake in user adoption program is to tout the benefits of moving to the cloud from the perspective of the organization or its IT department. These are not motivating factors for most employees. We must share with employees how changes like implementation of Microsoft Teams or other collaboration and communication solutions will benefit them. Bitwise helps in user adoption by conducting roadshows, seminars, webinars, virtual broadcasts, lunch and learn sessions, and one-on-one sessions. Providing a support structure is essential to assist employees to adjust to the change and to build the technical skills to achieve desired business results. Bitwise leverages various support models to help employees through the transformation. Bitwise provides on-call support, in-person support, online support. For, for any migration project, Bitwise can handle the items that are in green on its own. For other, Bitwise will collaborate with your organization to complete these. So if we see user adoption and support, Bitwise can handle on its own, but for others, we would need collaboration with your organization. So moving on to the technical perspective, migration cycle can be broken down into four major steps. The first thing, learn. This is the most important part of any migration project. It is about learning the existing environment. Then, after we have learned about the existing environment, we need to prepare the current environment for migration. And after we have prepared the current environment, we need to implement and test and create a new environment, the target environment. It could be your Office 365 or SharePoint 2019 or any other SharePoint version that you want to migrate. The last but not the least is validating that everything that needed to be moved was moved and all the user acceptance tests are accepted. We'll go through these major steps one by one. So in the learn phase, the first and foremost is to familiarize with the logical components such as web applications, search applications, site corrections, databases, and other things. And also the physical components such as web servers and database servers of SharePoint environment to determine the appropriate target SharePoint environment. Bitwise custom environment audit application helps in identifying and documenting both logical as well as physical components. Next, we need to identify the solution packages, features, workflows, and any other customizations that have been done to the existing platform. Bitwise custom application helps us in analyzing these features that are currently being used and extracting the Windows service packages from the current environment if needed. Then we need to document the site structure, the content that exists not only in SharePoint but also in shared drivers, document management systems, or other locations. We also need to learn and document the permissions regarding who can access this content and how it can be accessed. Identifying what content needs to be migrated to the new environment and what can be left or deleted in the old system and locations. Our custom accelerator crawls through the form and helps us gather all of this information. Next, we need to create a communication plan. We need to create a high-level plan of what will be migrated by, when it will be migrated, and how users will be kept informed about it. We also need to create test plans that detail how testing activities will be carried throughout the migration. Typical deliverables at the end of this phase would be understanding of the current environment, pre-migration checklists, customization reports, cleanup reports, list of sites and content that need to be migrated, and post-migration checklists, test plans, and test cases. After the learn phase is complete, let us look at the activities that need to be carried in prepare phase. First, we need to plan to migrate only the necessary components in order to optimize migration efforts. Bitwise custom cleanup utilities help in identifying and removing site features or document versions that are no longer needed in the new environment. Bitwise cleanup utilities look at broad array of parameters like the creation date versus last accessed date, retention policies, version histories, total visitors, and other parameters in identifying what content can be deleted and what needs to move over. By cleaning up the current environment, we ensure that only relevant data gets migrated. We also need to look at managing customization. Even if an environment is not using a lot of customization, it could be using workflows that could be transforming data. Creating a plan for customizations, including for features that are no longer supported in the target environment, is critical to success of project. Often rewriting features is the easiest solution. Bitwise, however, tries to leverage new features and avoid writing code. It often happens that when looking at a site or even a list, the actual usage over the period of time could be different from the original intent. In these cases, before moving to the new environment, we have to plan on how to deal with these. For example, a subsite could have evolved beyond what it was created for, or a list have grown and now it could hit some threshold. In these cases, the environmental structuring helps. A list could be broken down into multiple lists, or a subsite could be elevated to a site collection. Every migration is different and needs to be treated so. Although all migrations can be done by using bitwise migrators, sometimes the traditional methods of attach and detach are better, depending on the migration requirements of granular versus bulk migration. Based on system architecture, level of customization, nature of content, a recommended upgrade strategy needs to be developed. For example, if moving from SharePoint 2016 to 29, traditional attach and detach may be the best in some scenarios versus moving from 2010 to 2019 or online, in which it is better to use the bitwise migration tool. Typical deliverables at the end of this phase would be detailed scope definition for migration, clean current environment, updated environment, project plan, migration scripts and SOPs, target compatible source code. After preparing the source environment, let us look at the implementation phase. Setting up target environment is different from migrations to cloud versus on-premises. Then migrating to an on-premises environment, we need to set up the farm, which could include front-end servers, application servers, database servers, search servers, and other servers. It also includes setting up load balancing, database mirroring, backup policies. For migration to cloud, it is a bit less complex, as infrastructure doesn't need to be set up. Bitwise custom PowerShell utilities help us in automating setting up the target environment and creating them faster. Next, we need to deploy the customizations and ensure they are activated on all the required sites. Bitwise custom scripts help us not only in deploying these customizations, it also helps in activating the features on the required sites. For granular control over migration, we use Bitwise migration tool to migrate content from various sources like SharePoint, Lotus Notes, Actron, Cantico, and other content management systems and shared drivers to SharePoint. This tool supports batch as well as online processing so that the content migration can happen easily and can be scheduled over weekends. Branding is used to change the way SharePoint looks and to align it with corporate visual identity. It helps in user adoption. Commonly used functionality could be made easily accessible. Depending on the target environment, we could use the composite looks or custom master pages or custom actions or a combination of these. All these are applied and can be applied using Bitwise custom brander application. Typical deliverables at the end of this phase are target environment and test results. After the new environment is ready, we need to validate and fix any issues that could arise. One of the basic success criteria post-migration is the verification of migrated content in the new environment. There are very few traditional approaches like spot check that can be used to validate if the content has been migrated successfully or not. However, all these traditional approaches are time-consuming and lack the accuracy. Bitwise has a custom migration verifier tool which uses a checksum algorithm that verifies the content has been migrated properly along with the metadata and versions. Reviewing all the logs after migration has completed can be time-consuming. That is the reason Bitwise uses its custom event wheel that has reporting capabilities to go through all the logs and suggest corrective actions if errors or warnings are found in the log. When the migration is complete, users could face issues that could either be a data issue or user experience issue or a training issue. All these need to be resolved. Bitwise usually sets up ticketing tool within SharePoint that users can leverage to report these issues and seek help. Setting up ticketing tool helps creators to analyze the issues better. Often the issue Bitwise has noted is the bookmark URLs not loading the new page. Bitwise redirector utility helps in setting up 301 redirectors so that users are redirected to the new site. Deliverables for this phase is the production environment, user sign-off, and trained users. Now, this is where the Bitwise automation tools can help. Everything that has a green check mark can is automated and can be done on a click of a mouse. Everything with orange check marks are things that can be done half via the utilities and they require some manual intervention. Everything else needs to be done manually. Now with that, I will hand it over back to Nikhil.
Thanks, Anis. So on high level, the takeaways from this webinar and presentation is that the support is ending on October 2020 for 2010 SharePoint. So it's the right time to start planning. As part of the migration, definitely look at the new features that Microsoft is releasing on, and that will benefit your teams. Understand the organizational and technical perspective that is needed to be investigated for a successful migration. And last but not least, please partner with someone like Bitwise who has automation already in place, which will help with the migration process. So that's all from me and Anis here, and I will pass on slide deck to Nathan.
Great. Thanks, Nikhil, and thanks, Anis. We hope that this session provided a good overview and perspective on why to migrate and what needs to be considered when planning your SharePoint upgrade. For more information, feel free to visit us at bitwiseglobal.com, or as always, you can contact us at sales@bitwiseglobal.com. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and for joining us today. We look forward to talking with you soon.